The more a man knows how to fight, the less he needs to fight. Sun Tzu, author of The Art of War. Have you ever noticed how in movies, the most capable and dangerous characters are often restrained, measured, and merciful? People who actually could defeat almost anybody, but don't need to prove it? The explanation is that they live by a moral code, the warrior code. I believe there is a warrior in all of us. It recognizes honor, service, and discipline. In this video, we'll dive into the warrior code, its underlying moral philosophy and precepts. The cultivated warrior is calm. Paradoxically, the most dangerous man is often the safest man. Real strength surpasses mere dominance. It gives rise to honor and magnanimity. Why? Because the methods that build the warrior are honest, objective. You can either lift the weight or you can't. You can either fight or you can't. Fighting is the great equalizer among men. Strength and skill wins every time. You cannot fake these attributes. That is why the warrior does not need to prove anything. He already knows, objectively, with evidence. Accordingly, the warrior does not seek fights unless absolutely necessary, because he knows the true cost. He knows what he's capable of, and moreover, he knows what others are capable of too. In military strategy, they call this mutually assured destruction. For the warrior, it's called respect. Our culture often gets this wrong when rearing and cultivating boys and young men. Unrestrained violence and abuse are harmful and destructive, there's no doubt about that. But the answer is not to deny aggression and violence and try to keep boys soft and compassionate. The answer is to make them as strong as possible. Make them dangerous, then teach them honor, restraint, and self-mastery. These things come naturally from the warrior's path. Let's consider the alternative. Let's consider what happens when a man has no strength, untrained, untested, weak, and consequently afraid. That fear is rational. It's telling you, you're vulnerable. Somebody could hurt you if they wanted. You have no power, and this is degrading. When cornered or threatened, the insecure man may lash out to prove himself and hurt somebody. That violence didn't come from strength, it came from fragility and weakness. But the warrior knows better. He has cultivated honor. He protects those in his care and only fights when it's absolutely necessary and fair. In every traditional warrior culture, from the samurai of feudal Japan to Spartans of ancient Greece, the warrior was never just a fighter. He was a servant of something higher, his family, his tribe, his nation, his gods, etc. This commitment served a real practical purpose. It's a moral heuristic, a simplified code that separates the world into allies to protect and enemies to defeat. Because real violence is chaos, and in chaos, hesitation kills. That's why UFC fighters often refer to themselves as killers. They really mean that in the ring, they're willing to kill the other man, because they know this is a necessary state of mind. Hesitation and doubt can lose the fight. This binary clarity gives the warrior the ability to act with greater decisiveness and purpose. I think we've lost this clarity in the modern world. In an age of peace and comfort, the lines have blurred. We've become relativistic, postmodern, suspicious of all grand narratives. And in many ways, that's reasonable. We don't live on a battlefield, and we actually coexist in large cities, often without any directly familial, tribal, or even national line of connection. The world is cosmopolitan, and we must be tolerant. But there's a cost. Without a higher cause, our instincts weaken, our decisions lose sharpness, and we can easily feel aimless. I think the warrior offers practical wisdom in this respect. We don't need to divide the world into enemies and allies, but we can divide our time and effort into tasks that serve our greater cause and those that don't. That creates a sense of vertical integration when your thoughts, actions, habits, and character all point upwards. Then you know, moment by moment, whether you are on the path or wandering from it. And accordingly, your self-esteem and your self-reputation will reflect your congruence with your path. So how do we actually become honorable? How do we cultivate courage, discipline, and magnanimity? These are Aristotelian virtues, which means they can be trained. Aristotle's virtue ethics is enlightening here. Excellence is cultivated by training. We do not act rightly because we have virtue, but rather we have virtue because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. We become virtuous through practice. First we choose, that's commitment to a greater cause. Then we act on those choices, that's training. Then those actions become habits, that's skill and capability. And over time, those habits become our character, that's the warrior. It's literally the same principle as training the body. Neuroplasticity, the brain adapts and wires itself according to imposed demands, which means each act of discipline, restraint, overcoming fear, and showing respect is contributing to your character. In other words, if you want to cultivate warrior virtues, you simply need to act them out repeatedly, through daily acts of honor, through restraints in moments of anger, through mercy when we could dominate. This begins with a conscious commitment to a greater cause, which becomes our compass. And then each action becomes a repetition, a set, a workout, and that's how virtue is built. Having explored the cultivation of warrior virtues through personal discipline and commitment to a greater cause, we now turn to a historical embodiment of these principles, the Spartan warrior. At the age of 7, Spartan boys were removed from their families to enter the agoge, the Spartan education system. This agoge molded them into disciplined warriors and morally upright citizens. The training emphasized obedience, endurance, and communal responsibility, laying the foundation for their future roles as defenders of Sparta. Spartan youths were subjected to austere living conditions and cultivated self-discipline. They were provided minimal clothing, often just a single cloak, and encouraged to endure hunger and discomfort without complaint. Sleeping on beds made of reeds and engaging in rigorous physical activity, they learned to prioritize the needs of the state over personal comfort. The agoge emphasized the development of courage by exposing boys to physical challenges and hardships. They were trained in combat techniques, taught to steal food to survive, and punished if caught, reinforcing the values of stealth and resilience. Such experiences were designed to prepare them for the uncertainties of warfare and cultivate courage. Within the agoge, disputes among peers were often settled through physical contest, promoting the idea that a fair fight is essentially honorable. This practice not only honed their combat skills, but also fostered mutual respect and camaraderie, essential qualities for a cohesive military unit. Central to the agoge was the cultivation of absolute loyalty to Sparta. That is commitment to a greater cause. From a young age, boys were taught to prioritize the state's welfare above personal interest. This indoctrination ensured that upon reaching adulthood, they were prepared to sacrifice everything for the glory and security of their homeland. The Spartan agoge stands as a testament to a society that placed immense value on moral virtue as the cornerstone of its military might. Through discipline, courage, and unwavering loyalty, Sparta produced warriors who were not only formidable in battle, but also moral exemplars. And so it was. The Spartans are perhaps the most spectacular example of a warrior culture in our history. Strong, wise, and committed to a greater cause, an inspiration to later philosophers of Athens. Take heed and be like the Spartans. Because as we know, warriors are real. There is a warrior in you. You know what the warrior archetype is. You've met real-life warriors. You have my warrior training program. You must now adopt a commitment to a greater cause and cultivate your virtue via repeated acts of excellence. Only then will you be a complete and wholesome warrior. Go forth and make the world a better place. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. If you appreciated this content, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.